Oh, here goes, and welcome to episode 57 of Throwback Hoops, a special viewers mailbag episode, which we did last year. Please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And it's a very happy new year to my good friend, Robbie Clayton. What's up, man?
Yep, happy new year, Woods. Thanks to all the listeners that have tuned in and watched us over this last little journey that we've had there. So, yeah, looking forward to a bit of a viewer mailbag episode.
Thanks, Robbie. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to some of the people that have worked with us over the last year, all the guests that have been on our show. I know you've gone through them previously. And then in the last week, we had Matt McQuaid on the Clutch Roundtable giving a big shout out to us. I know he's been a big mentor to you and also, you know, a pillar of support to me through which has been what has been a pretty hard time in my life. So thanks, Matt. And also the guys from Shooting the Breeze, you know, Jacinta and Paul gave us a shout out on their show. Massive props to you guys. You're doing great work. Really love that episode that you did at Kudos Bank Arena. Had Chris Pondgrass on the show. You guys are brilliant. And finally, our really good friends, the Sport Blokes. All right. So Stewie, Nate, the kind of friendship and bond we've built with you. I know Hoops connected all of us together, but these are like lifelong friendships we've built off the back of the work we're doing with our podcast, Robbie. So not only has it been rewarding to do the podcast, but how rewarding has it been the relationships we've built on the back of it?
Definitely, man. I couldn't have said it any better myself. Yeah, spot on with what you said. And yeah, shout out to all the guys. And yeah, let's keep it going.
Okay, Robbie. So why don't you, for the first episode of the year, take the viewers and the listeners through what jerseys you got today?
Definitely. So, you know, these last couple of episodes, I've been doing some random sort of Hawks jerseys there, Woods. I think I might have sort of outdone myself with these two, right? So hanging in the background is none other than a Dan Dickau Red Hawks Reebok jersey. So, Wood, you know those Reebok jerseys are pretty rare, especially one with Dan Dickau is even more rare there. So, look, a little bit about Mr. Dickau. He was drafted by the Kings at pick 28 in the 2002 draft out of Gonzaga. He was traded to Hawks on draft night. Look, he went on to have a 7-year NBA career, spending time with the Hawks, his hometown Portland Blazers on a couple of occasions, as well as Dallas, New Orleans, Boston, and the Clippers. Interestingly enough, he wore 6 different jersey numbers throughout his career. So I thought that was quite strange. So obviously I've got the number 12 one there. Look, he's currently 44, remains involved in the game, commentating college games and co-hosting a radio show. So look, I've obviously got a few random Hawks jerseys there, Woods. I think this one might be right at the top. I would have thought that one there. So didn't play a whole lot of time with the Hawks. Look, I'll just stand up and show you the one I'm wearing. Probably equally rare, but someone's probably a little bit more familiar with fans there. This one sec.
For all our audience that can't see, Robbie's wearing the white Pero Antic jersey. Dan Dickau and Pero Antic. They are pretty random, both those jerseys.
Big Pero. And this is one of those random climate cool jerseys, this one, Wood. It's actually nice and cool on this hot sort of Sydney day we've got today. So, yeah, a little bit about Big Pero. So, officially pronounced Antic, just for those sort of wondering. So, you just hear a few variations. So, this is his White Hawks home Adidas jersey. So, look, Big Pero was undrafted out of Macedonia. And after a 13-year career in Europe, he joined Atlanta in the NBA at age 31, which is something you don't sort of see a lot there. So he joined us in 2013 and played with the Hawks for 2 seasons. He quickly became a fan favourite, didn't he, Woods? He was someone that the fans really liked there. He was part of that Hawks team that made the Eastern Conference Final in 2015, played a little bit of that enforcer role, a bit of an inside-outside game. So he was absolutely a gun in Europe there. So he won over 10 different titles. And, yeah, someone I just really enjoyed in his stint in the NBA there. So Antic is currently the president of the Macedonia Basketball Federation. Also just wanted to lastly say a bit of a shout out to a mate of mine, Haris Nikosevic, who's also a big fan of Big Pero and actually met him in Serbia quite a few years ago. So shout out to Haris. I know you'll be watching this one. So look, Woods, unfortunately, no bobbleheads for either of these two. I don't think they would have been making Dan Dickau and Pero Antic bobbleheads there. So couldn't do that. But yeah, a couple of random Hawks ones and got a few ones up my sleeve for the next few weeks as well, just to keep the random Hawks theme going. So what about yourself there, Woods? I see you looking pretty in pink today. Why don't you talk us through that one?
Yeah, for sure, man. I got a little story as well. So let me just stand up.
Nice. Woody standing up there wearing the McDowell white jersey. I know that's a guy that Woody's been quite a fan of for a while. someone that I've sort of got a bit of an interest in. Obviously, I was a fan of his dad playing in the VFL/AFL back in the day. But yeah, talk to us about your boy.
Yeah, so I was just about to say, he comes from sporting pedigree with his dad being a football player. Had a lot of potential, was a development player on the Kings a while back, and then went over to the Houston Rockets, nearly made their team. So there's a lot of potential there. And I guess coming back and playing for New Zealand over the last few years, he's really realized that potential. And then having Coach Modi really putting the keys to the offense in his hands this year, has seen him be that leader on that Breakers team. And you know what? I think his game's going to go from strength to strength. We saw him play for the Australian national team recently. And I just think that he's going to have a long career in this league and potentially get opportunities to play abroad as well. So just a little bit of story.
Hey, Woods, he's got to stay healthy, doesn't he? It's one sort of slight sort of thing he says.
Definitely.
Always pick up an injury there or two. But no, I know you're a big fan there, and he's great to watch, isn't he?
BMW, man, my man. And you know what? I hope he gets that man bun back. I think he played better with the man bun. He cut that hair. But, he's a triple threat, can do a little bit of everything on the floor. And a little bit of a story. Look, this Friday, one of the biggest days in Australia's sporting calendar is Jane McGrath Day at the Sydney Cricket Ground. And, to support breast cancer, and obviously with my dad suffering from cancer, it's something that's really close to my heart. Something that I did with my family every year, get dressed in pink for this day. I've even got the pink Jordan 1s that I'm going to wear with this outfit.
Very
so
nice.
not only am I going to represent my family, but I'm also going to represent the game that I love, basketball at the day. So get out there and support a good cause if you can on Friday.
Well said again, Woods. So is that one of the Breakers kind of 3 jerseys? Is that one? Is that one they sort of wearing regularly, or it was more a special one? Because I know they've obviously got the blue, they white or black, so it's in the rotation as well. Yeah,
it's in the rotation, definitely. They got the sky blue, this one, and I think they got a black one as well, as you said, right? And also
first pink basketball jersey, Woods.
First pink one, but I'm thinking of getting one of those nice new Washington Bullets ones. The pink ones look really nice, right?
Yeah, Peachtree. Yeah.
And yeah, just another shout out. Indigenous round was a few weeks ago, so William McDowell White also with Indigenous roots as well. So shout out to BMW. Okay, let's get into it. You ready?
Definitely, let's do it.
All right, as I said, it's a week to give back to all the supporters that we've had. Our first question, actually, we were talking about shooting the breeze. Our good friend Jacinta Govind, aka Squint, sent us in a question. And I think we wanted to represent the WNBL. That was something we wanted to do this year. So the first question is, hi boys, really love that you're trying to cover the NBL in your show lately. So I thought I would throw out a question to you. I wanted to get your picks for MVP, Coach of the Year, and also your top 4 predictions. So why don't we start with MVP? Robbie?
Sure. Well, I think I made that pretty clear a couple of episodes ago, right? My girl, Lauren Nicholson. Look, I don't think that's a homer call for me there. I think she's well and truly in contention this year. She's second in the league in scoring, second in 3-point percentage. We know she's obviously a great defender. And look, obviously she's having the team success this year as well. So, look, it's probably a little bit of a stretch. There's probably a few other names that, maybe a little bit more sort of on terms of favourites rather than Loz there. But I think she's a big chance. Like I said, she's certainly got that all-round game there with the scoring and the defence there. Great percentages all round. So, yeah, I'll certainly be crossing my fingers, and I think that'd be a great award for Loz, and certainly think she's a chance to make the all WNBL team as well. She doesn't have the MVP. What about yourself?
Yeah, good call. No, I'm going for Annalie Maley to go back-to-back. She's averaging 18 points and 12 boards a game.
Yeah.
We're going to get into the Coach of the Year a bit later, but this team, we expected them to be good. Bendigo, a full Australian lineup, no imports on this team, and they're 8-1. So not only is she putting up big numbers, the team's doing great, and she's backed up an MVP season last year with ridiculous numbers this year as well. And that 3-point percentage has gone up a little bit. I think she's shooting around 35% from the 3-point land and hitting 1 a game.
She's one of your favourites as well, right, Woods?
Definitely one of my favorites. Really like the work that she's doing with her podcast as well. So yeah, big raps on her. And she's actually been working on TV and covering some games courtside for the NBL as well. So just an all-round person. I know we were a big fan of her father as well. He was a rebounding machine, Paul Maley. So the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. And yeah, I'm banking on her to be MVP back-to-back.
Hey, just on that as well, Woods, I reckon there'd be a whole generation of Hoops fans now that probably wouldn't even know who her father was, right?
Yeah,
It was
100%.
a long time ago that he played. Paul the Mailman Maley, great player back in the the 80s and sort of I think very early 90s, going back there with those North Melbourne Giants teams. But yeah, you're right. She's great to watch, isn't she?
Yep, absolutely. So let's move on to Coach of the Year. Who you got there?
I found this one a little bit tough, and I wanted to obviously pick it from one of the teams that I'm going to end up picking in my top 4. So I've gone with Chris Lucas. I think he's done a good job taking over a championship team there.
Yep.
I don't feel that they've missed a beat, obviously, with him taking the team over. But look, I do feel this one could go either way because, the Spirit, Flyers and Fire in particular have all really improved on last season as well. So I think you could definitely pick one of the coaches of those 3 teams there. But look, I'm going to say Chris Lucas. I do think that the Boomers are looking really good this year. So, yeah, I'll say Lucas for me. What about yourself?
And a big shoes to fill as well for Chris Lucas, right?
Absolutely. So, very big.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Kennedy Kerryama on the back of what I said about Bendigo earlier. He's come over from the UC Capitals and he's taken that team to an 8-1 record, right? And he hasn't had the best win-loss ratio in previous years, but to get that team rolling to where they are right now, just been incredible. As I said, people expect them to do well, but they're on par to be minor premiers potentially. So I'm going to go with him, and he's got a lot of local talent that he's really got behind and taking the team forward. So I'm going to go with him.
Hey, Woods, without sounding harsh as well, it was probably a good move getting away from the UC Capitals with the way their record's looking this year, right?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, after the game, I ran into Jade Melbourne the other day. I was telling you, right? And she was at the locker room. She was talking about, man, we can play 3 quarters. We can't finish the games. And they were really frustrated with the fact that, they're a young team, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, good move for him and unfortunate for the UC Capitals, definitely.
Hey, just a quick one, Woods. I wanted to check. I know you went to that double header with the Flames and the Kings game the other week. What was the crowd like? Because I know we've talked about before, obviously there's been very different crowds for the 2 games. So what was the crowd like for the women's game there?
Yeah, look, it was really disappointing, to be fair, right? I reckon there's about 2,500, 3,000 max, and a lot of those people were coming in towards the end of the game as well. In fact, we were all at the locker room before having a few drinks, hanging out, and all the Kings fans were there, and they weren't leaving when we were leaving to watch the earlier game. They were staying at the pub. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, come on, guys. I was trying to get a few of them to come to the game.
Round them up with you.
Yeah, no worries. And okay, so let's move on. Top 4.
All right. So, look, probably no change to what the season is now. Look, my prediction is that the Boomers are going to win it all again and finish first on the ladder. So I'll say rounding out the top 4 in order will be Bendigo, Townsville, and Southside. So I think probably Townsville maybe just a jump ahead of Southside at the moment. Really like all 4 of these teams. I'd be surprised. I don't know what you're going to pick for this one, Woods, but I can't see another team sort of getting up there. I think obviously Perth are falling a little bit from where they were last year. But yeah, as I said, and those sort of 3 teams, Bendigo, Townsville, and Southside, have really improved on their seasons last year, which is good to see. And both have really loaded rosters as well.
Yeah, look, I'll agree with you on the top 4. I think Bendigo might actually take over the Boomers and be the minor premiers. So I'm going to go Bendigo, Boomers. And I agree with you. Townsville might jump Southside and Southside in 4th. So potentially, a Spirit Southside semis and a Boomers Townsville semis. I'm picking that, right? So not far off what you said. Yeah. It's really good that we are learning about the WNBL a little bit more, and getting into the women's game a lot more on the back of the World Cup, and our knowledge is just going to improve the more and more we watch and follow the league, man. Right?
It's a good call, Woods. I think we're being honest as well about it, aren't we? Like, there's no way the 2 of us are going to sit here and say, "Oh, we've always been WNBL watchers and fans," because I guarantee you, 2 to 3 years ago, we weren't sort of watching the games like we are now. But I think we can both gladly say now we're watching as many games as we can. We're listening to podcasts about it. Shout out again to Shooting the Breeze. We're reading content online. I'm always, interested in the stats and sort of getting on that. So you're 100% right. We'll continue sort of, as we said with Loz a few weeks ago, promoting the game, supporting the game, and we're glad to be doing so.
Yep, and as Jacinta said on Shooting the Breeze, we're encyclopedias of 90s NBA. Well, she's an encyclopedia of the WNBL, so shout out to her, as well.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. All right, so the next question, It comes from John Obaba, really good friend of the show, JB. Shout out to you, man. He's been a great supporter and listener of the show. And he asks, guys, I want your opinions on the Sydney Kings. We are past the halfway mark. What are the Kings' weaknesses and strengths, and will they go back to back? The next part of the question is for Robbie and about his beloved Cats. Can they clinch a playoff berth and make an impact with their current squad? And boys, please continue to rock some sweet NBL jerseys. So maybe we'll tackle that last bit first, right? And JB, I know you like my sweet NBL jersey today, man. Robbie, I know you got something for JB, so tell him what you told me offline.
Mate, I might be rocking a Drake UU jersey soon, just to sort of show how deep my Wildcats collection is. So no, I've definitely got some NBL ones planned there. But no, great question. Really appreciate your support there as well, Jono. Do you want us? Maybe we'll go through the Kings bit. Sort of
let's do that.
All right. So yeah, look, I honestly do think the Kings have the best roster on paper, probably for the second straight year. I do think they're absolutely loaded there. Really like their ability to put out different lineups. They seem to be one of those teams that can cover an injury, or they can cover, some foul trouble in a potential game there. And I really think we've seen a number of guys that can step up in clutch situations this year. We've seen, role players really like Bruce and Noy sort of hitting game winners this year. So I think that's obviously a big plus for them there. And like I said, that roster's so deep. You can sort of interchange different players. And you're not really going to lose a whole lot there. I mean, probably Cooks is that one player that's not totally replaceable. But look, I mean, you can say the same about a lot of these teams. If Cotton went out or Mitch Creek went out of some of these teams as well, they'd be similar. In terms of weaknesses, probably not a lot really. Maybe one basic one that I could maybe point out, it's probably clutching at straws a little bit, would be potentially after winning last season, they might not quite be as hungry as potentially teams that haven't won it before, like Cairns and Southeast, or teams that haven't won it for some time, like Adelaide and New Zealand. So that might be the only thing there. There might be some more teams with a little bit more hunger there. The only other sort of slight one, Woods, I know we've talked about this offline a little bit. I know sort of Chase Buford sometimes just adjusting those end of game lineups there. So that might be something they've obviously sort of got to get right. And as I said, I don't think they have any problems with that, given they've sort of adjusted those lineups and had role players hitting game winners at the end of games. But they would be the two things there. So there's probably not a lot, is there? Hunger and potentially getting the game in-game adjustments sorted out there. But look, I definitely think they're going to make the grand final again this year. I'm not going to make my prediction yet if they're going to go all the way, but I think they'll be one of the last two teams.
Yeah, look, you make some very valid points there, Robbie. I think one of the weaknesses is definitely the import trio, right? I mean, last year you talk about Ian Clark, Jalen Adams, and Jarrell Martin, right? Amazing, right? Yeah. And now you've got in Walton, Justin Simon, and Tim Suarez, right? There's definitely a drop-off there. And you talk about that five-man spot, it was supposed to be by committee this year, they'd have both Geordie Hunter and Tim Suarez covering. And that is a little bit of a weakness because, from game to game, those guys don't turn up. Geordie Hunter's starting to get some reps in, but you can't replace a guy like Jarrell Martin. You can have him at the 5, you can have Cooks at the 4, right? And you've got that ability to stretch the floor consistently. He can give you 20 and 10. And I think that this team isn't as strong as it was last year. Definitely not. DJ Vasiljevic has really taken a little bit of a fallen off the cliff a little bit. I mean, they said he was going through a bad patch, but this bad patch has been going on for a while now. And look, he doesn't offer that much when he's not making shots. People say he's a tenacious defender. He's okay, right? He's not going to lock a guy down for the whole game. He's okay. And he came up big in the playoffs last year against Tasmania. We know that big shot that he made, right? And silenced the crowd. And then you just saw him take his game to another level at times. And people expected him to, really take it to an even higher level this year. And we've seen it actually regress a little bit. I feel not having Jalen Adams around hasn't been great for him. And then you talk about Derek Walton Jr., right? He's not as consistent as Jalen Adams. He'll have 47 one game, and the next game he'll have 6 and 12. Single digits or low teen scoring numbers, right? And when Cooks goes out, you expect him to take over. He does that sometimes. He doesn't at other times. Cooks' injury history hasn't been great. He's been injured at various times this season, so we want to make sure that he's healthy going into that playoff stretch, because whenever he's out of the team, getting W's on the board is a lot harder for us. I do think that we will go back-to-back. Who's going to beat us? Tell me who's going to beat the Kings this year. I mean, Cairns is a tough matchup for us, I'm sure. If they make it to the final, that'll be a hard-fought 5-game series. But you think about it, at full strength, I just can't see anyone beating us, right? And last year you had United, you had other teams. I mean, maybe not Tasmania, but United was tough. Southeast Melbourne gave us some fits last year at different times. There was more challenges to the throne last year, I think. This year, I don't think there's a clear...
I think you're spot on with what you said about Walton as well there, Woods, because,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really seen him take over end of games, have we? We know Jalen Adams was just a beast at the end of games. You'd put the ball in his hands and he'd sort of set things up, or he'd take that big shot himself. We haven't really seen that from Walton a whole lot yet, have we?
Yep.
He's been in a lot of games where he's not on at the end for various reasons, but yeah, no, I think you've said some good
We
stuff
both
about
predicted him to be MVP last year as well, right? This year as well at the start of our predictions. That's probably a little bit off base there, Illawarra
What
last
about
year
on
as
DJ
well.
there, Woods?
Yeah.
What about on DJ? People were picking him to be a potential all NBL first team this year. I know quite a
What I'm
few
saying.
experts on Fox Sports, ESPN and that. And so, man, all NBL first team, he's way off those sort of predictions, isn't he?
That's what I said to you earlier, man. Like, you expect to take his game to an even higher level. And just, going back,
Yeah.
Illawarra and Melbourne were challenging us last year, right? This year, who are the two contenders that could beat the Kings? Tell me.
Maybe I'll talk about one now.
All right.
I'll talk about one now.
That's a good segue. Talk to me about your Cats.
It is. All right. So on part two of that. So look, again, thanks, John, to the question there. So firstly, I'm going to sort of probably not go out on a limb. I don't think it's too big a call, but I'm going to say that Perth will 100% make the playoffs, and I'm actually quite confident about this. I do think they turned a bit of a corner of late. I know they had a bad loss to the last weekend, then they turned it around against Illawarra there. But I'm actually really high on this Ty Webster signing. I've been talking to you a little bit about this week. There are a few disgruntled Wildcats fans that honestly I feel like you just can't please them these days. They've kind of being used to sort of getting everything they want and things aren't working out like that. But if someone had come up to me 2 weeks ago and said, we can basically get rid of Corey Shervill on the team and add Ty Webster, like no questions asked. Like, of course you'd do that, Ty Webster is a big size combo guard. He's a decent defender, someone that you can put the ball in the hands of. And also these Wildcats fans that are saying, why didn't we get a big or a rebound or whatever? These are the same fans earlier in the year that were complaining that there was too much Mitch Norton and too much Todd Blanchfield. So this is a real answer to that, right? We've seen guys like Kyle Zernich perhaps not develop like we maybe thought he would have. I'm glad they sort of did hold on to him there. But I think the Ty Webster one's a big signing there. He's also someone that really wants to play under John Rillie as well. So someone that comes here motivated. Perhaps his first stint with New Zealand a couple of years ago didn't sort of end on the note that he wanted to there. So I think he's coming hungry. He's playing in a place like Turkey there, which probably wasn't the ideal place to play. And I think these guys appreciate it when they come and play on home soil there. So, and look, in terms of the big man and the trio that we've got there in Thomas, Manic and Majok, I don't think that's too bad a trio, to be honest. We saw exactly how good Manic can be on New Year's Eve there against the Hawks. He was really good at that game, like just all over the place. I think Thomas has turned a bit of a corner. We obviously saw him really shut down Kanu Pinder in that game in Cairns a few weeks ago as well. That really sort of put me on notice there. So I'm not as concerned maybe as others are. I know we haven't been winning these rebounding battles and everything else like that, but we've certainly got a lot of firepower now. I think we can play a little bit more up tempo with Ty Webster as well. So I'm really up on that signing. Obviously, I think they're in action. They've got a couple of games coming up, don't they? It's a couple of big games against New Zealand and against the Wildcats there. So yeah, really looking forward to see how that goes. But I don't think that's me really putting on my Homer hat as well there, Woods. I have liked the way they've improved. People seem to forget they are in front of Adelaide and Tassie on the ladder. They've sort of got quite a few games in hand there. Obviously, a few games on the road, like I said. But that's my little rant about the Wildcats. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, look, I'm not disagreeing with you. The only caveat I have is we've seen them play together in New Zealand before. But the Dan Shamir is a very structured guy. He expects certain things out of you, right? And doesn't give them freedom to play too much. And whenever those two are doing their thing, they'd get pulled from the game or, get a slap on the wrist. Corey Webster was in the doghouse. So I think playing under Coach Rillie is a big part of what may make this a success. I know Ty has come out and said that playing under JR is something he looks forward to. John Rillie obviously was a teammate of Corey Webster in New Zealand in his latter years, right? So there's that bond there, and I think that that's what the big difference is going to be. And I got no problem with you getting rid of Corey Shervill and bringing in Ty Webster. So no, I think it's going to be a plus. And that rebounding has got a lot better lately. You know, early on in the season, they weren't winning their rebounding. They hadn't won any in the first 10 games, but I think the last 4 or 5, they've won a couple of rebounding head-to-heads. And as you said, Tayshaun Thomas has taken his game to another level. So I think they're covered there. And I'm excited to see how the two brothers play under Coach Riley.
Yeah, there's not a lot of margin for error on the ladder at the moment, is there? You know, we see how close some of these teams are. I think everyone's almost kind of said that Melbourne aren't going to make it. I don't know. They could still potentially get on a run. But
done.
I do think it's going to be one of Perth. Yeah, it'll be one of Perth, Adelaide, or Tassie that misses out there. So
10 and 12 now, are they?
Get
right?
on a run. Yeah, and they've played quite a few more games. And something. I think they might have played 4 more games on the Wildcats at the stage. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, really looking forward to this run home. And yeah, the NBL has been good as it always is this year, right?
Yep. For sure, it has been. NBL 23 has been bonkers, as Peter Lee said. What a game that was on New Year's Eve, by the way. Coming back from 18 points to Taipans in 6
That's crazy, right? Hey, was that a record, Woods? I didn't hear any stats about that.
It equaled the record in the 40-minute era, right?
Equaled it, okay. Yeah.
18-point comeback in the last quarter. Hey, just before we move on, speaking of John Obaba, one of the biggest Kings fans I know, right? And he's shared a little bit of memorabilia with me that he'd like us to show on the program. So I'm just going to bring it up, Robbie. Why don't you take our listeners through what's on the screen, the ones that can't see.
Nice. So we've got a little bit, sort of a piece of history. Nice signs that have one at the top there. And I'm loving that three-peat one there, obviously, you know, those glory years there, 03, 04, 05. You know, we've spoken about those teams before, you know, Chris Williams involved and some of those players that they had on those Kings teams. Look, I'm not going to say I was loving the Kings winning that three-peat at that time, Woods, you know my feelings back then. Some great memorabilia there. I'm surprised you don't have something that good hanging up on the wall behind it there.
I know JB, man, he's got so much. Like he had so many, he sent me so many different pics to share with the audience. And I thought, look, let me select a few. And this other one that's come up
you got like this, Carfino, right? Yeah, you talk about that one. Yeah,
so it basically covers the first decade of the Kings between 1988 and 1997. It's got a picture of Steve Carfino there on the front, and then it goes through all the different rosters and lists the players as well that played for the Kings. Some of the players that played for the Kings over that decade. So yeah, beautiful. And thanks, Jono, for sending in those images.
Very cool. Yeah.
All right. So I got one more question, right? And this one is a bit left field, Robbie, but I thought, you know, we're Throwback Hoops here, right? We like to mix it up. So I'm going to throw this one at you. Look, our next question comes from Shahan John in Sydney, also a big fan and listener of the show. Thanks, Shahan, for sending it in, this question. I know a lot of people have been watching Last Chance U on Netflix, and I know you guys have been also. Talk to me about Coach John Mosley. Is he a professional caliber coach? Could he get a role in the NBA even?
Yeah, well, firstly, big shout out to Shahan. Obviously, you know, someone that we both know, and as you said, a big sort of supporter of the show there. So appreciate the question there, mate. Look, I guess firstly, when it comes to Last Chance U, I think it's a great show, firstly. So if anyone hasn't watched these first 2 seasons, I would definitely recommend it. The second season sort of came out, I think a couple of weeks before Christmas maybe or something, and I binged through that over 2 nights, I think, there. Look, in terms of Coach Mosley there, I do think he's a probably better suited coach to that level he's at the moment. I'm not sure that the NBA would maybe suit his style there. He does seem to be someone that's sort of better at, you know, teaching and mentoring more. And I'm not quite sure he's that in-your-face kind of style would work in the pros there, but certainly liking what he's doing there, East LA. And yeah, as I said, certainly I think it's a really good watch that last season sort of had a couple of guys we knew. Had obviously Demetrius Caleb Jr. Obviously his dad was someone I enjoyed watching with my boys Michigan back in the day there. So yeah, it's always kind of interesting the way they do it there. And these guys, a lot of them are on their last chances there. So I think that's probably the way he coaches like he does, right? And he lost his right-hand man, didn't he? The assistant. I'm blanking on his name now, but I remember at the end of the season.
Coach Rob.
He's a champ, that guy as well. So obviously they're going to be sort of getting a new coaching staff there. But yeah, no, certainly a good question, interesting question, like you said. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
Look, I think he's a strict disciplinarian, right? And these kids at Last Chance U, they've come from broken homes, troubled past, bad backgrounds, and they've come to play JUCO basketball, right? So, you know, he's there to not only improve them as players, but improve them as men off the court, right? And Coach Rob plays a big role in the life of what's his name, Morrow, the left-handed kid, I can't remember his name now, but takes him in for a while and looks after him. These guys, it's a training ground for them to grow as men, not only as players. And that whole way that you deal with college players, it doesn't translate to the NBA when they become professionals. We've seen guys like John Calipari, we've seen, who else is there? Just trying to think of Rick Pitino as well. You've seen who's the guy who coached for the Adelaide? Mike Dunlap, right? It doesn't always work to become a good college coach in the pros, not just in the NBA, because it's different. You've seen Billy Donovan and PJ Carlissimo, guys like that who've had some success, but generally it's a different mindset. It's a different character trait that you need to coach a college or even a high school team compared to going to the pros. So there are some odd cases of it working. We just mentioned a few, but I think the work that he's doing there is terrific. It's a great TV show, and if you haven't watched it, jump on Netflix and watch both seasons of Last Chance U, right?
Hey, Woods, I think it's one of those shows as well that you could potentially watch with like a friend or a partner or someone that's maybe not like a basketball junkie like we are there. And it's obviously there's some sort of human stories and life sort of, stories and stuff on that show. So you don't have to just be a massive basketball fan to enjoy that show. I think that's probably something important to think of as well.
Yeah, definitely. So look, it's been great, great to get these questions in. Thanks everyone. We're going to make this an annual thing, Robbie. We've done it 2 years in a row now. We'll do this in the end of 2023 as well. Just want to wish everyone a really good year ahead. We've seen the back of a lot of hard times in the world lately, and I think we're going to move forward, and it's going to be a great year for everyone. All right, Robbie, please take the audience through our socials where we can be followed and all of that stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So look, of course, you can sort of follow us on Twitter at Throwback Hoops, on Instagram at throwback.hoops. Our email address is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, look, I appreciate all the questions that got sent in. Obviously, we couldn't get to all of them there. We were sort of conscious of not having too long an episode for this one there. So we did have a few questions that we've had to sort of, save up there. But definitely send any questions you've got through. As always mentioned, if you've got any random jersey requests, I mean, come on, guys. Dan Dickau and Pero Antic, right? If you've got any random sort of, have you got this jersey from, the 80s, 90s, noughties, whatever, send it through and we'll see what we can do there, and we'll give you a shout out on the show. But yeah, what about yourself, Wood? Any shout outs? Yeah,
look, I mean, for all of those of you that support us on Patreon, we appreciate it. Look, get out to the test match on Friday and get in your pink. I encourage everyone to go and support a good cause. Any final thoughts from you?
Final thoughts. I mean, look, we wanted to sort of tease it a little bit. We're going to have a sort of an interesting next month ahead on the show, right? We're probably just going to do a couple of episodes coming up just with the two of us. You're obviously going to be away for a week in India, which is a bit of a interesting sort of time to be going. I know you're looking forward to that. Yeah, so we're going to get a guest host to fill in for us that week. We're still under negotiations for that at the moment, so we'll keep everyone posted, but we won't sort of take a week off there. But
you're going to replace
we do have some really good guests. No, no one can replace you, Woods. No way.
Thanks, bro.
Well, part of my thing with recruiting is trying to find someone that can rap. So I'm not having any luck with that at the moment. So,
okay.
But look, we've got some really good guests. Probably coming up in that next maybe 4 to 6 weeks. So we're talking former NBL All-Star players, current NBL stars, and a few little other surprises up our sleeve as well there. So obviously keep tuning in, keep subscribing there, and we can't wait to bring more to you guys this year.
All right, thanks everyone. Peace.
Peace out.